Boogeyman. I watched this movie last night, and growing up, I absolutely loved the short story by Stephen King. The movie is as pure of a horror movie as you can get, and what I mean by that is that it follows virtually every horror convention. If you're familiar with the horror genre, then you can predict everything that will happen in this movie, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because a lot of horror movies, including the greats, follow these tropes. There are some things that Boogeyman does decently, but nothing is exceptionally great. Some of the shots in this movie are very good, but I think they could have been utilized a bit more to add some more tension. I think some scenes could be just a tad bit longer to make full use of the few clever setups this movie had. The movie does a decent job at keeping the monster under wraps for a while, but this is kind of expected given that the Boogeyman lurks in the dark. The Boogeyman does look decent as well when he is shown. The performances in this movie aren't bad either, and you have a few recognizable faces. You probably noticed that I said the word decent a lot, and that's because Boogeyman doesn't do anything exceptionally well. Nothing is really new or clever in any area of the film, and the only thing that gets close to standing out are some of the setups and shots, but I feel like even those are not fully utilized. Just as the movie doesn't do anything exceptionally well, it doesn't do anything too horribly either. My only complaint with this movie is that there are some plot holes and writing oversights, and if I'm being honest, I don't know why they put this movie in modern time. The Boogeyman is afraid of the light and he can't attack you if you are in a well-lit area, but no one in this film thinks to use the flashlights on their smartphones, or a flashlight in general as a matter of fact. Judging from the presence of smartphones and the style choices of the high schoolers we see in the film, I think this movie is set in the early to mid 2010s. But this time frame doesn't offer any utility to the movie. In fact, it takes away from the film because the entire time you are thinking, just shine your flashlight on your phone and you'll be safe. When it comes to regular flashlights, the characters for some reason never think to use those either. Let's take a moment to talk about the source material and how the film compares to the short story by Stephen King. Growing up, I loved the Boogeyman short story, and the movie draws heavy inspiration, but it's definitely a spin-off. You have some of the same characters, but the movie expands on the world as you would expect it to, since it only has roughly 18 pages to work with. The movie is definitely different from the short story, and it puts a twist on the characters, but there are still plenty of references to the short story. But it's 100% not a carbon copy. As I mentioned before, it also adapts the movie to a modern setting as opposed to the late 70s when the short story was written. Overall, Boogeyman is a fun summer horror movie that doesn't do anything superbly well, but at the same time, it doesn't do anything absurdly bad. This is a generic horror movie that has some cool moments, but I wish the film capitalized on these moments a bit more. I would say it's a fun enough movie to justify watching it in the theaters, but don't expect anything revolutionary. If you decide to skip this movie, you're not missing out on much, but I can see how it could be a fun summer movie to watch with your friends. But there you have it, Boogeyman. Aside from the short story, I don't know why you would watch this when you can just watch Barbarian instead.